13, Baker's dozen of these things. Usual cast. Again, we are Wings on Katella. Covers Southern California sports in Orange County. Los Angeles Angels, Anaheim Ducks. We have the Sporting Tribune staff with us. I'm going to go from left to right on my screen. Thomas Murray covers the Angels and Ducks for the Sporting Tribune. How you doing, Thomas?
Good, man. I just found out what Baker's dozen meant over the weekend when I was at my trip to Disneyland.
Attaboy.
Get the cookies at Harbor Galley, and I was like, why do they give you 12? And they're like, somebody told me, like, oh, it's Baker's dozen. It's one for them to eat. And I was like, oh, shoot, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I'm doing good, though.
Thomas Murray, you can follow him on social media at Thomas_L_Murray. He used to bite his tongue and hold his breath. He was scared to rock the boat and make a mess. Similar to him, Jack Janes is next in line here. You can follow him on socials at JackJanes_. Jack, do you ever feel like a plastic bag drifting aimlessly in the wind?
At times I do. I did as a kid growing up listening to that music, so yes.
Okay, how you doing, pal? It's Jack covers the Ducks and the Angels for the Tribune as well.
Yeah, doing good. Wrapped up development camp with the Ducks. A lot of fun. Got to talk to some of the prospects, so excited to kind of get into that later on.
Attaboy. And Zach Kavanaugh, last man in. Zach, sometimes you just got to ignite the light and let it shine. How are you doing, pal?
I'm doing good, man. It's been a busy like 2 weeks when it shouldn't have been as nuts as it was, but happy to be here. Taylorblakeward, who's your favorite number 13 in all of sports?
Favorite number 13. It's a really, really good question, honestly.
You could say
Alex Rodriguez. No, I was thinking Teemu Selanne. That was the first one that came to my mind. I just wanted to see if there was something better than Teemu Selanne. But I will go with Teemu Selanne. Boys, if you couldn't tell, those were lyrics by a particular pop artist that shares a last name with a friend of yours named Corey. Let's lead off with that. Corey Perry signs with the LA Kings. Of all things to start off with, that's what I want to start with this week. We're starting there.
I
think all we need is
after you introduced me and said the lyrics there, I kind of thought that's where you're going with it.
So I think I'm gonna let Zach Kavanaugh roar here. Go ahead and roar, man.
Christ. I don't like. Look from like a hockey standpoint, it makes sense for the Kings. They need some more veteran jam, grit, whatever you want to call it. They need somebody to help out the second power play unit. They need somebody that might help them advance to a Stanley Cup final and probably lose. But from any other standpoint, like Jack and I were talking about this while we were at the rink yesterday, and we were trying to figure out like what the equivalent of that would be that we could think of like, the guy on the other team that you hate to play against and just hate seeing their face, and you've spent your entire life learning to want to punch their face, and then that guy becomes on your team when you're trying to resurrect your playoff career. We couldn't figure out a good one. We were like Johnny Damon is in there, but he's not as much of a pest when he went from the Sox to the Yanks. I couldn't think of any good comps. And
Brett Favre to the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, that's up there. It's ultimately it's a thing that he said. The Kings fans don't have a choice; they have to root for you now. Is basically what he said. And because Andrew Geisler, our Kings reporter, sent me over the audio, and I like that quote from Pears. I don't know that anybody in the moment was happy about that. Anybody on either side of this, anybody in the league, but the Kings got their stable of old guys yesterday, so that's we'll see how that plays out for them in the long run.
Zach, appreciate the short-winded response. Jack Janes, is Corey Perry a dark horse or is this something that's going to run hot and cold?
You know, it's so like this move bothers me just because you're a Duck for 14 years and then you go at the twilight of your career to the biggest rival that the Ducks have. It just feels weird. But at the same time, man, this is good content. So it's like I respect it. Yeah, I mean, like Zach laid out, it's a decent hockey move, but I don't know. The Kings just added so much old to a team that needed to get good or get better to overcome the Oilers. Did they do enough? I don't know. They did a lot. I don't know if they really improved that much with all the moves they made, but I just can't wait till the first freeway face off to see what that's going to be like. Like I wonder. I was telling Zach, like I wonder if Ducks fans when he comes back, because he always gets a good ovation when he comes back. Even now, like when he comes back, like are they going to get like a standing ovation but with boos? Like everyone's going to be standing clapping, but everyone's booing him at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see.
And Thomas Murray, close it out. Is this a teenage dream?
Nope.
Guys, I have a list. I just have to mention here, I had to Google, like, these are not off the top of my head. I had to Google Katy Perry songs. Like, I know all these songs, but I had to Google them to remember them.
Teenage Dream might be my favorite song by her, though.
Teenage Dream is the best song by Katy Perry.
It's a really good song.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know what? I had a really good comparison that I put out on Twitter earlier today. And I said this is the MLB equivalent of Joe Kelly going from the Dodgers to the Astros.
That is
reasonable. Then I just have another one. This is Randall Cunningham going from the Eagles to the Cowboys at the end of his career.
I would have thought it would have been like Madison Bumgarner signing a one-year deal with the Dodgers after he got released by the D-backs. But
Oh, that's a good one. Mad Bum on the Dodgers, yeah. This will be like one of those really great random jerseys one day when 10, 20 years from now. You're gonna look at this.
No, that's him as like a
what? It took you 7.5 minutes.
Yeah.
I would put. I think Perry's weird jersey is Montreal, probably.
Yeah.
Like Tampa, he at least did 2 years. Dallas is a weird one, but Montreal is probably the oddest.
You mean Chicago didn't go well?
Oh yeah.
You know what? I forgot about Chicago altogether.
On that note, I just wanted to kick off with the Corey Perry stuff.
Taylor, did you kiss a king and you liked it?
No,
that's the best. That's the best.
That was awful. That was terrible.
I don't know. That got a good chuckle out of me.
Yeah, swish swish, man. Come on.
That's a bad song.
Yeah, it's horrible. We're gonna talk a lot of Ducks today, because a lot went on for the Anaheim Ducks this last week. The draft started everything out, then free agency. You, Zach, you guys doubled down on Ducks development camp. I don't even know where to start. I guess we'll start with the draft. The Ducks did hold on to the number 10 pick. They did make a lot of moves progressively during the draft. But the number 10 pick, Roger McQueen. I think, Jack, you were first on it 2 months ago, and I think all of us jumped on board immediately. It made so much sense. Like you said, Pat Verbeek made this guy in a factory, and he gets him at the number 10 pick. Zach, the first thing I asked you about Roger, I think it was he going to be a Duck this year or this upcoming season? You said juniors most likely. I think all three of you had an opportunity to talk to Roger at some point. I'm going to go to Thomas first. Thomas, you did not talk to him at the draft, and you didn't talk to him at Dev Camp. You talked to him at Angel Stadium the day after, 2 days after he went to Disneyland. Roger McQueen got to go meet Lightning McQueen. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I met Roger McQueen. I met Eric Nielsen and Alexei Matthew. They were all super nice guys. Eric and Roger kind of spent more time around the Southern California area. Roger talked to me about his plane ride or his helicopter ride. Basically, after he was drafted, Ducks told him, "All right, let's go. You're getting on a helicopter. We're going to Disneyland. So he was like, I got to skip all the media stuff. And he looked kind of happy to kind of avoid all that, and I would too. I mean, get to go to Disneyland over dealing with people like us, right? um, Went over to Disneyland, took a photo with Donald Duck, and he said it was like a 15-minute ride. Then he went over and met Lightning McQueen. I know they did a bunch of photos outside of Cozy Cone Motel in Carsland. Kind of full circle moment because my college job was working at Disneyland. So that was kind of fun to write a little bit about Disneyland while doing this. And then on Saturday, Roger and Eric, I don't know exactly what beach, but they were somewhere around here, somewhere in Orange County, and they went and saw a bunch of dolphins out in the ocean. And they said that they were on somebody's yacht, and they were like, we'd never been on a yacht like this. And they're like, oh, I've been to the beach, but I've never done anything like this. And then to cap it all off, they went to an Angels game on Sunday. They were joined by Lexi, and Roger threw out the first pitch to Zach Neto, and it was a really cool moment. Zach Neto at the end of that, from what I saw in the soundbite by the Ducks, was just welcomed them to the Anaheim family. It seemed like a really cool, fun weekend for the three of them, though.
Kind of quick thoughts off of that. They are too young for Balboa and Newport, so it had to have been Long Beach. You go to Disneyland like once a week, right?
Honestly, just lately. I've gone like 2 weeks in a row, but I haven't been going to Disneyland in a long time. It's just because my mom still works there, so she gets me in, and right now is the only time they've had a window open, so we've been taking advantage of it.
Yeah, I don't think I've been to Disneyland in like 20 years. I don't know. It's just not. I just haven't. Zach, you were at the draft itself. Initial reactions and maybe comments from Pat that you noticed that, like you said, this was an obvious pick for the Ducks so long as he got there, and he did.
It was so obvious that, as we talked about leading up, that he was in every mock draft, and it was so obvious that the rumor post draft was that the Pittsburgh Penguins were trying to move up to get ahead of the Ducks and pick McQueen, but ultimately everything slid into place, and it's the perfect Pat Verbeek pick. The thing that we had talked about that Pat had mentioned earlier in the week, and he and Martin Madden, the director of scouting, sort of mentioned afterwards, they were in a position to swing for upside, and they both were basically like, you don't get a kid like this at number 10 in the draft in most drafts. And almost all the scouts agree that, like, if he was healthy last year, if he hadn't been dealing with the back problem, that he would probably be a top 5 pick at the end of the day. But because of those injury concerns, he slid. The Ducks were okay with his medicals, and they said, let's grab this 6'4" gazelle. And I think he's an awesome pick. Like, actually getting to watch him in person the last couple days shows you that he has that top end skill. He is fast for as tall as he is. Those long strides are easy. He gets up and down the ice quickly. He'll have to work on his quickness, his explosion. He's said as much, but if you can get this kid to fill out his frame and truly like live up to his potential, I think his self comparison to Ryan Getzlaf isn't crazy. He is tall, strong, passes the puck, has a hell of a one-timer. He finished off his drill today against the Ducks' last first-round pick, Beckett Seneca, by deking around him, putting the stick between his legs, and finishing over Italian Olympic goaltender Damian Clara. So he's skilled, and he has polish, and he has pizzazz and a personality, which hopefully the sport does not beat out of him. But I think that this is a absolute home run pick for the Ducks, and it will, assuming he stays healthy, there will be benefits to this for a long time to come.
I knew I should have gone to Jack with this because I knew I wanted to ask Jack about Dev Camp. I wanted to ask about him playing against Beckett. And I knew when I went to Zach, there's no chance for Jack. So the one thing I heard from Zach is that Roger McQueen is going to have a 17-year career, play 1,100 plus games with the Anaheim Ducks, have over 1,000 points. That's what I've got from that. Jack, Dev Camp. obviously Beckett Seneca is there, the number 3 overall pick from last year. A lot of Ducks prospects. I want to save the Will Francis story for later, but what did you see out of Ducks development camp? Obviously Roger McQueen, Beckett Seneca. What did you think?
I'll quickly hit on a couple points about Roger McQueen since we were just talking about him. Zach, you're doing him dirty. He's not 6'4", he's 6'5".
Oh, did I say 4? Oh no, yes,
Yes.
yeah, full
I mean,
full 5.
And when I was looking at his elite prospects page, he's listed at 182. On the development camp roster, he's 198. So he's already put on some pounds, and he's going to continue to put on weight and strength. He's big, he's physical, he's highly skilled. Like you said, if he stays healthy, he's going to have a great career. What impressed me most about the skating is how smooth it is. Yes, he's not super quick, he's not fast, but it's very smooth. So that's all I'll add on Roger McQueen, what stand out to me. In terms of what I saw, we'll stick to the theme of skating. I really hope I say his name right. Anthony Alain Samake, I believe. He was the 6th rounder. Yes, the 6th rounder. That the Ducks took. He is fast and he is smooth and he can stop on a dime. He can twist and turn. He is just an amazing skater. He's going to UConn, I believe, for his incoming freshman year. He's only 17 years old, and he's just got a complete baby face. It was very funny interviewing him. Just because it's like this kid looks like he's in middle school and he's out there, playing with big boys. And the rest of the stuff that stood out to me, it's development camp. There's not a lot of things you can take away from it other than certain things. Me and Zach joked that we knew we were going to get asked what stood out to us at development camp, and I think my answer is Connor Smith and Roger McQueen are very tall humans. We already noted, McQueen's 6'5", but Connor Smith 6'6", 216. He's a big boy. Steen Solberg, he doesn't look that big on the ice, but once you get into the locker room and he's, interviewing for the media and all that, and he's just wearing a t-shirt, he is thick. He looks massive. He's got a lot of muscle on him, so no wonder why he, just has a reputation of bulldozering people. So I think those are the things that stood out the most to me.
Hit the wrong button. Sorry, boy. So Anthony Alain Samake, the Jimmy McElroy of the Anaheim Ducks draft in the 6th round there. But Connor Smith, I love guys like Connor Smith, because have you guys talked to Connor? Did you guys get to talk to him at camp?
I did not.
Didn't. No.
Okay, I talked to Connor January, December, something like that. We were setting something up on a prospect highlight, and I talked to Connor. Like, Connor Smith is like the meanest guy on the ice, nicest dude off the ice. I love guys like that, and that's why I think I'm a big Connor Smith believer. I mean, I liked Gary Terrence a ton too. I'd go have fun in Philly, but or no, not Philly. Either way, wherever he ended
Rangers, right? He's
getting
part of the Kreider deal.
He was part of the Kreider, so Rangers, but good New York kid. But something else that occurred during the draft itself, the player, we mentioned this when Cam Fowler got traded. I said the player that spent the most time on ice for the Anaheim Ducks. I was wrong. Pat Verbeek traded over the weekend the guy that actually has spent the exact most time on the ice in an Anaheim Ducks jersey, Johnny Gibson, heading over to Detroit. Just quick thoughts. I remember when John Gibson was drafted. I remember him with that Team USA, the World Juniors team. I remember seeing him play in San Diego. This is a guy that I really liked. I always really liked Johnny Gibson as a goalie. Nice guy as well. But to see someone that was... It's hard to see someone that's been with the organization and been the staple in the face of the organization for that long move on. But it was time, right? Obviously, they're moving on to Lucas Dostal. Johnny was going to be getting a backup role. Now he gets to go be a starter in Detroit. The Ducks get a 2nd next year. A 4th, I think, is one of the picks. And also Peter Mrazek, who will be the expected backup for the Anaheim Ducks this coming season. Veteran goaltender, Peter Mrazek. Zach, we'll go to you on this. Seeing Johnny Gibson head over to Detroit.
Sorry, you cut out there.
Oh,
Taylor.
what part did you miss?
I said Zach will go to you, and then I just heard Detroit at the end.
Oh, okay, that's all I said. That was it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, John. So, just thoughts on the trade in general. It seems a little bit of an underwhelming return, especially because Pat Verbeek had kind of held steadfast about he has a value in his mind what John Gibson is worth, and he's holding on and holding on and holding on. And ultimately, when you get a older backup and a couple future firsts, or not future first, future draft picks, and you're in the middle of this time where you traded away Trevor Zegers for an underwhelming return, and you're trying to bring in some impact players, it's kind of an underwhelming move overall. Now, I think that part of that has to do with Gibson ultimately had a lot of control over where he was going to end up. He wanted to go to somewhere where he was going to be a starter. He wanted to go somewhere where he could get a fresh start. I think he had a 10-team no trade, and Detroit wanted to make this move back at the deadline. That's what both Verbeek and Steve Yzerman said. But Gibson's injury history, there was an injury right before the trade deadline that took him out of being able to be moved. So it's a little underwhelming, but as we all said, the writing's been on the wall. They said they've been talking about doing this for like 2 years, Gibson and Verbeek. So it's a little disappointing all in all to see a guy that's been there for as long as he is, but I don't know what else they were going to get out of this realistically. They could have made the trade sooner. They could have held on to see who needed somebody, because Verbeek also said that they were pretty comfortable going into the season with Dostal and Gibson, but it opens up a little bit of cap space to work around with. And I don't know. It's kind of of all the moves that the Ducks have made in the last week, this one kind of just happened. And while it was an initial surprise of like, oh, they finally did it, it was still just okay, they've done it. And now everybody can continue to move on and see what the future holds for both sides.
Jack, John Gibson, 480 hours of ice time with the Anaheim Ducks. That's 20 days. 20 days worth of playing time. It's hard to find a franchise caliber goalie. Every team ends up, tending to find one at some point or another, but it's hard to find them. So the fact that Johnny Gibson, I know that there was no Stanley Cup and playoff runs weren't what necessarily were expected possibly, but the fact that John Gibson did his job for 20 days on the ice, right? It's gonna be rough seeing him in another uniform. But what was your kind of a thought process of this trade?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised, just because the writing's been on the wall for so long that he's been looking to get out. And I think now it just makes the most sense for him to get out. Not necessarily because the Ducks are ready to move on without him, but they have Lukas Dostal, who's ready to take over the starting role. As good as it would have been for the Ducks to have just an elite tandem again, Gibson wants to be a starter. He wants to start every game, and he just wasn't going to get that opportunity with the Ducks. And there's no guarantee that the Ducks are going to be a playoff team, and he's been wanting to go to a playoff team. And there's also no guarantee that Detroit would have been a playoff team either. So the timing of it just kind of, it made sense and it didn't at the same time. Like, it made sense to trade him this offseason. It didn't really make sense to trade him before free agency settled and all that stuff. But I guess my initial reaction was just, in a way, it's kind of bitter in the sense that the trade rumors have been going on for so long, and it got to the point where the Ducks are now ready to take that next step into playoff contention, and he was the one constant throughout this entire rebuild. And they trade him right at the very end as they're about to see the fruits of the labor of the rebuild. So that part's just kind of like, if he held on for one more year, he might have been able to see maybe a playoff push or just a competitive team again. And but I understand why they made the move.
And Thomas, I'm going to go to you on this one. Peter Mrazek. If you followed his career, you know that actually he had some really good series against the Anaheim Ducks early in his career. Him and Jimmy Howard were fighting for goaltender time. Peter ended up kind of winning out on that, and has kind of been in baseball we call it a swing man, right? It's a guy that you can feel confident as a backup. He can go and take some starting time and be your number one for maybe a bad team. Maybe expected a little bit more at the early set of his career. But Peter Mrazek, as a 13-year veteran at this point, Thomas, him coming in as a backup, what's the confidence level that the goalie tandem in Anaheim is still going to be maybe not as good, but fine?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're ultimately they had to do what was best for Gibson, right? And just, he wanted to be traded, they made the move and did that. So to find the success that they had last season, I think that's just going to be really hard in general. Just because this move was just like, hey, let's do right by him, let's shed some of the salary, just get a quality backup. So I don't think obviously the goaltending I don't think will be as good next season, but I think it'll be sustainable. I mean, he's been a proven backup in his career, veteran guy that's been around, like you said. So it makes sense for them to make this kind of move and, get somebody that'll be at least reliable and, in any way help Dostal as well as a goalie. And then just good locker room type of guy, I feel like.
We're going to come back to the Anaheim Ducks. We mentioned Corey Perry in free agency already. We're going to mention who the Ducks have signed. I want to move on to Angels just for a quick minute. Right now, as we speak...
Is this the midway point?
Funny. We will touch on that. As we spoke, the Angels were up 2-0 when I checked. Now they are down 3-2, and that was in the span of about a minute and a half. Also, Christian Moore came out of the game with an apparent injury, so things are not going great out in Atlanta. Angels back at 500 for the 9th time this season. They're 42-42. End of the day, they're either going to be 43-42 or 42-43. Zach, you hinted at it. I don't want to say mid because I know that's like a new slang term, but this team is perfectly content with being right on average, right? They are. Jack, I just want to go to you on it. I know that you mentioned something. There is one note I want to say before you get there. Do you know what their record is against AL West teams?
Ooh, against AL West teams.
Well, what's their record at home? What's their record on the road? What's their record overall?
Isn't it? 500.
It's 11-10. So I got excited when I looked that up. I was waiting for. I saw the 10-10, and I was like, yes, and I missed a game. So they're 11-10. But Jack, go ahead, take it away. The Angels right now, that's perfectly 500.
Yeah, it's the way they lose games is kind of frustrating, just because they're losing games that they had the chance to win and they just didn't. But at the same time, looking at the standings, being 500, that's a massive step forward than what this franchise has seen over the last decade. So you really can't complain that much. The pitching has been good enough. The offense has been all right. Jo Adell's been the hottest hitter in baseball this month, you could argue. So it's weird. It's just weird. That's the best way I can put it.
I want to counter something you said. You said the Angels are losing some games they should have won. That's absolutely true, especially this last Sunday. That was a throwaway, complete blunder and throwaway of a game. But I think it's the opposite. I actually think the Angels are winning a lot of games they shouldn't be winning, and that's the mark of a team that I've said it for too many years. Is there's games you need to win and you go win those, but there's games that you are supposed to lose that you need to win. You need a handful of those to go the right way to finish above where your trajectory is. And at this pace, the Angels are expected to finish 81-81, right? Based on their current format, the 500 format. None of us had them anywhere near 80 wins. None of us thought that. So if they can go and win a handful of games, maybe a tick more than what they weren't supposed to, suddenly, I'm not talking about playoffs, I'm not talking about anything like that, but the closer you get to 500, I think this is a team. This team this year is different than the teams from the last years. It doesn't mean that they're good. It doesn't mean anything close to that, but it's different than the years prior when this would not have happened. They would not have won these games that they weren't supposed to win. And that's where I think this team is different. You did mention something, Jo Adell. Really on a hot stretch. His last 50 games, not including today, which I just had in front of me, and I'm going to pull up again here. His last 50 games, 282 batting average, 369 on base, 622 slugging percentage, 991 OPS, and 16 home runs. I think the thing that's impressive there is that he only has a 280 BABIP over that span. It's not like anything he's hitting in play is really falling. Thomas, a lot of good players in the American League here in June, but Jo Adell is one of them. Your thoughts on Jo Adell here for the last month or so?
Yeah, earlier this month, what was it? It was last week against Boston. I believe it was Boston. He had his 10th homer of June. Joined a very exclusive list among the Angels with Tim Salmon, Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, Garrett Anderson. There's two more names on that list, but for Angels to hit 10 homers in the month of June. Jo Adell has just been playing out of his mind lately. Has really stepped it up. Just in general, going back to, I believe, the beginning of May, his batting average was sitting around 179 or so. And now he's hitting above 240. Had an OPS of over 1,000 last month. It's just been one of the hottest players in baseball. And had not Cal Raleigh been, having an MVP caliber month, I think Jo Adell was a candidate for sure for Player of the Month in the American League. But Joe's been just incredible lately. Really, starting to actually look like the prospect we all thought he would be. Going back like episodes ago, I think it was Zach was saying, are we still waiting for Jo Adell to kind of turn the corner? And then literally, I feel like around that moment, that's when we started to see him turn around the corner. Just better at bats, taking walks, not letting balls go past him in the strike zone, being more aggressive at the plate when he needs to, hitting his pitches when he needs to at most. And it's been paying off for him hugely. And just all around, just solid effort by him. And, had he had this kind of production in April, I think we would be talking about Jo Adell, the All-Star.
I was going to mention that, and I think, Zach, we can finally give you credit for something. Sorry, pal. There was one thing I saw with Joe that I thought was funny. I looked up. He got a middle pitch, and I looked, and his middle is, you look at his hot zone, it's just bright red and middle. The rest is blue. But his 10th home run of the season, I think, was the most middle you could ever get. Thomas, you mentioned something, All-Star. Before we jumped on, I think all four of us said a different name for who the Angels representative for the All-Star game should be. Earlier today, Mike Trout was not named a starter for the All-Star game. Mike Trout, not only one of my favorite players, but one of my favorite people, right? I think we can all agree with that. Mike Trout is outstanding. This is not the year that Mike Trout should be an All-Star. It's just injuries aside, everything like that. He hasn't been. He's fine. He's still Mike Trout. He's still good, but he's not All-Star level kind of player right now. Thomas, you mentioned Jo Adell. Is that who you think should be the Angels representative for the All-Star game?
I would say Jo Adell or Zach Neto. You can also kind of argue the case.
Hey, whoa. All four of us have a different opinion.
Okay,
We're all going to chat here, Zach.
All right. No, okay, if I had to go with the All-Star for the Angels, though, I think I would go with Zach Neto. But the options are there.
I'm so sorry, Zach. I've been messing with you. I've been punking you. Who do you think should be the? You already said it, and I think you're the one that has the best response.
Well, luckily for you, I didn't hear anything you said because the internet keeps cutting out. I think a good option is Yusei Kikuchi. Honestly, especially if we're just dividing this up by leagues, his ERA among the AL leaders, his strikeout rates, he's been an impressive guy for the Angels. That I honestly, when it comes to when we're talking about who's been the most valuable member of this Angels team in this first half to get them even sniffing a wild card berth, I would argue it's Yusei Kikuchi, with giving that rock solid starter every turn through the rotation that you can rely on to put them where they are. And would he probably like more wins than he's getting? Sure, but I mean, the numbers are there to make him a good representative for what this Angels team has been or how they got to where they are right now.
And Jack, different opinion at all?
No, I said you say Kikuchi too, but I'm not going to be boring and say the same thing. So I'm going to go with a dark horse that I know isn't going to be he's not going to be an all-star, because that's just how the world works. But you look at what Reed Detmers has done since May. I mean, come on. His ERA as a whole is 4.10, which for a reliever isn't that great, but relievers' ERA are kind of fluky because you have one bad outing, you're screwed. Well, Detmers just had to have three. He had a stretch from April 30th to May 7th. He had three appearances, and he recorded one out while giving up, what's that? 3, 7, 12 runs. 12 earned runs and recorded one out. So that destroyed his ERA. Since then, he's just given up one earned run. He's on a streak of 19 straight appearances without recording a run. He's been dynamite since the wheels fell off, apparently, for him in that three-game stretch, and he's just been locked down out of the bullpen. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a little bit of recognition, but I think it's going to be Kikuchi.
You took my guy. It's
Well,
all right.
They took my guy, so I had to keep.
I know that's what. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we all. If it's Joe, if it's Zach, if it's Yusei, if it's Reed, devil's advocate, man, just take the Blake out of my middle name. Throw me in the All-Star game. 20 home runs. Would love to see Taylorblakeward in the home run derby. He's fourth in the American League in home runs right now.
I would love to see Jo Adell in the home run derby.
I would too. I'd actually prefer to see Jo Adell in the home run
He takes
derby.
good BP.
He can hit the ball far and hard.
Joe would launch those things.
I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to play devil's advocate even more. Taylorblakeward running a 235 BABIP, so that means he is way better than his numbers would indicate. And that is not a biased take based on his name. So let's run back to the Anaheim Ducks here. There's not a lot that we didn't touch on with the Los Angeles Angels last week. And there's just so much Anaheim Ducks news. Just to give you an update, as of recording, Angels are now down 7-2.
I was just going to ask if you wanted to update that, because I just
what is that, 5 minutes?
Yeah. And
so they were up
first two outs.
Yeah, they were up 2-0, and then in the span of about 5.5 minutes, they're now down 7-2. So
all with two outs.
We will stop checking that. Let's go talk about the Anaheim Ducks. They did make one notable free agent signing, and I believe it is their only free agent signing as of this very moment. Mikael Granlund, 33 years old, the former 9th overall pick in 2010 of the Minnesota Wild, averaging 55 points per season over his 13-year career, multiple 60-point seasons. Zach, I'm going to go to you on this. I know that the big ticket free agent didn't get taken. He did the trade and sign deal with Vegas. Won't even mention him by name because of his teammate, that lousy teammate of his up in Toronto. I'm just trying to think of where I was going to go with it. Either way, Mikael Granlund, I think you have a stronger opinion on his impact potential in Anaheim than I do. What's your thoughts on the Mikael Granlund signing? 3 years, $7 million AAV.
Technology is really being a friend to us today, because every time you start to ask me a question, it cuts out. My thoughts on Mikael Granlund with the Ducks are that I think he's an extremely solid pickup for what the Ducks need to solidify the middle of the ice. When we talk about the move out last week of Trevor Zegras, the signing now of Mikael Granlund, you're essentially replacing them with each other, because Mikael Granlund will be your third line center. Yes, he can play the wing, and he can be a little bit more, Pat Verbeek called him very versatile. He can play him up and down the lineup. He'll get power play time. He'll probably be on some penalty kill minutes. But he fits a role better than what Zegras was going to possibly be in that spot. So I think he's a good pickup. And again, 60 points. You say multiple 60-point seasons. He's had 4 60-point seasons in his career, 3 of them in the last 4 years. I think, and most of those on a awful San Jose Sharks team. So you put him on a better roster with a better coach. And as you know, you slot him down in the lineup. He's not a 1 or 2. He's not going to be relied on to be like a main offensive driver, but he's a good, solid complementary piece to what you're building. And I think when it came down to like ranking the possible free agents, he was highly sought after. And basically he was the reason that if the Stars were going to trade Jason Robertson, it was going to be because they wanted to move money to keep Mikael Granlund. So you can probably take Jason Robinson off the trade market, but I think Mikael Granlund is a really good pickup for this team. It cannot be the only pickup for this team, but it is a good start and something that they needed to get done. Especially as, I mean, Jack knows we were among the people yesterday as they were checking their phones and looking their watches and waiting. They would see Pat Verbeek come out on the balcony and they would see if he was holding his phone or not. For them to finally get something done in the afternoon was a big deal for them in the long run of the day.
You mentioned something, and as my laptop starts to kind of crash, you mentioned it's the hole that Trevor Zegras had. But it's also $2 million more per year, or $2 million more next year, etc. They've got a lot of money still left over to move around. The thing I look at with Mikael, and you mentioned it, he played on this bad San Jose team. I know he was with Dallas at the end of the year, but I look at it, he averaging 2 power play goals per season in the last 5 years. But he's also averaging like 20 power play assists per season. So I'm trying to think. Anaheim still needs goal scoring, right? And they need their power play to grow. They need everything. Can Mikael Granlund, you mentioned his versatility, can he be the guy that finds the back of the net? I know that he has some 20-goal seasons in there, but is this someone that you pair with Kreider, another acquisition you brought in over the summer, and you pair him on the power play with Kreider and whoever else?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good mark. Kreider will either be with McTavish or with Granlund, and I'm still quite curious to what Joel Quenneville's opinion of how the roster is going to settle out is, but we won't get to know that until training camp in September. I think right now, you put Kreider on the third line with Granlund, and look, I mean, I'm probably stealing your thunder here, but we're talking about like where does he slot, where does who go. So many of these problems are fixed if you get Nikolai Ehlers, who's the number 1 free agent still available, who the Ducks were reportedly in on, and maybe they've sloughed off. Maybe it's only Washington and Carolina at this point, but they need. Kreider can't be your second line winger, if you're going to be what you want to be. Mikael Granlund can't be your second line winger if you want to be what you want to be. There is still a need that needs to be addressed, and we keep mentioning Trevor, and this is all of what happened in the last few days is an example of why you don't trade Trevor Zegras ahead of all of this stuff. If the Ducks today had Mikael Granlund and Trevor Zegras, well, then you could say, well, maybe we can move Trevor to somewhere that, as the free agent market dries up, they really need somebody like him. And then all of a sudden your options are myriad. But now, I think Mikael Granlund is a very good piece to have. He will make this team better on the whole. But you still need something else to kind of make the lineup slot properly. We'll see how that goes. It's been a very quiet few days since, a lot of jettisoning last week for the Ducks.
Jack, I'm going to come to you on something obscure, and I'm going to send it to the group text, just so you can kind of prep for it, because I'm going to go to Thomas on this. Nikolai Ehlers, Thomas, we know this team needs to find the back of the net, right? Next year, it has to find the back of the net. Nikolai Ehlers is probably the best free agent to build on that. Sorry, my dog is going off over the side here. He's a good boy. It does sound like it's down to 2 teams, and I think Zach mentioned it, Carolina, Washington. I think the Ducks are on the back burner a little bit, but you agree they need to find someone that's going to find the back of the net. And maybe it's Jason Robertson. I don't know. That'd be great if it was, but do you think Nikolai Ehlers is a guy that changes this Ducks offense?
I think any score will change this Ducks offense. So even if they do have the chance, I mean, yes, ultimately Nikolai Ehlers would make an impact to this team. But at the end of the day, if his top two teams are going down to Carolina and Washington, you said, just kind of depends if the Ducks can even get him. So, I just think the Ducks just at this point they're gonna have to be aggressive. They're gonna have to try to sign a shooter, or they're gonna have to go through the trade route and just kind of based off of what I've seen between Zach and Jack posting yesterday. It seems like they might be kind of trending towards being aggressive in the trade market.
And thinking about this, Zach, you and I were talking about this yesterday off air, but is Beckett Seneca a potential answer there? I don't know. I don't know, and that's why I'm asking. And Jack, what do you think? And then I'll go to you for the question I just texted you.
For Beckett Seneca being with the Ducks?
Yeah, throughout the remainder of the season, could he be an answer for someone that finds the back of the net? I'm not talking about a 60 goal scorer. I'm not talking about that guy up in Toronto or anything like that. I'm just talking about, can he be a depth guy that builds the goal scoring here?
Can he be? Yes. Will he be is a different question, just because, he's coming off a year where he dominated juniors again. He's not old enough to play in the AHL, so he's either going to have to be with the NHL club or with the NHL or with the junior team. And it means Zach, we're talking about this as a development camp. It's going to be a tough decision to make. Ultimately, I think he's going to get the 9 or 10 games to start the season with the NHL club and see where they go from there. If he does well enough, he earns a spot in the lineup, he can stay in the lineup. If it looks like he needs more seasoning, he could go down to the juniors, although it's tough because, like, what more does he have to prove at the junior level other than giving him another shot at cracking, Team Canada for World Juniors? It's going to be interesting to see. He's a big kid, but he still talks about how his strength is something that he needs to work on. So it's going to be a real interesting training camp, and I think he's going to get 10 games, and that's going to be, I think, the test to see if he's going to be ready or not.
And Zach and I were talking about this shit.
Before we jump on, just when we're talking about line combinations, if your third line is Chris Kreider, Mikael Granlund, Beckett Seneca, I'd like to live in that world personally. Yeah. I think that would be a great spot for him to learn from a guy like Chris Kreider. See how that goes.
Well, and that's what I was talking about last show. I want my team to be the best team. I want the best hockey players in the world on my third line. I want my third line to be better than everyone else's second line. I want my second line to be better than everyone else's first line. And if you add those three guys together, that's a quality third line. You know what makes that third line better is throwing Trevor Zegras in the middle, but so be it. Jack, and the thing about Beckett Seneca, and Zach and I were talking about this yesterday, is he cannot go to San Diego. That's part of the league age restrictions. Because I had to ask about it. So that's something that's interesting, that he either does have to go to juniors or the NHL. Jack, I sent you the text. I look at the left-handed shot defensive core of this Ducks group. Radko Gudas, Jacob Trouba, Tristan Luneau is probably the third guy in there. I know that Luneau is... Was that?
You mean the right shot?
Thank you. Yes, that one. That one. The other... Wait, the one with the L, right? Which one's the L? No.
Oh my God, I don't know.
Yeah. So, the left-handed shot, I look at Gudas... maybe I'm just not a believer in Radko Gudas. Maybe that's it. I know that he's a leader on this team. I know everything like that. But I think the Ducks actually need a left-handed shot defenseman. I think they need to bring one in that's going to be impactful. I don't know if you agree with that under any circumstances. I know that we can talk about Zellweger and Lacombe and all that all day, but I don't. Maybe it's because I'm not in on Gudas.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, it's. I just keep laughing because you keep saying left shot. Yeah, I know what you mean. So yeah, Gudas. I mean, Gudas had a great year his first year as a Duck. He played really well, worked well transition, was solid defensively, but he took too many penalties. Well, this past year he took way too many penalties again, and his game saw a staggering fall off. He was poor defensively, got lost in the defensive zone a lot. It looked like he was trying to make hits instead of play the puck, and it got burned. He got burned a lot doing that. Jacob Trouba, I mean, the reports weren't great coming out of New York with him coming into the trade, and kind of lived up to that expectation of like, well, he's not as good as he used to be, so it's just kind of tough. I think Pat Verbeek. It was just another case of Pat Verbeek getting a player type that he likes, a big physical defenseman that's more stay at home, to pair with these younger left shot defensemen that are they're young, they're fast, they can go up and down the ice, they move the puck well, they can join in on the rush. So they want. I'm assuming Pat Verbeek wanted right shot guys that were bigger, sturdier, stayed at home to kind of balance out the decor. But I agree. I think long term with this team, they're going to need another right shot defenseman, just because you look down at the roster, or you look down at the pipeline. There's not a ton of them that look like they're going to be high end to very good NHL talent. I mean, Tristan Luneau definitely has a chance to be that way. Just trying to think off the top of my head because my computer's overheating. I can't look it up, but I'm pretty sure Ian Moore. He has a chance to be a defenseman, although he doesn't got a ton of skill, a ton of high upside skill. I can't think of any others off the top of my head. I know I'm forgetting some, so I apologize. But yeah, long term, they're going to have to look at the right side for their defense, for the blue line, because what they have right now isn't good enough. And both Trouba and Gudas are free agents at the end of next year, so they're going to have to find at least two guys upcoming free agent market or trade market.
And I was going to go to Thomas, but he just texted the chat and said he's going to step out for a minute. So this is going to get interesting. We should mess with Thomas. Oh shoot, he's back. Oh. So Thomas, what do you think?
That's mean.
He doesn't even have his headphones in. He doesn't know. His mic's off too. He's in trouble.
Was this a question for me?
Yeah, what do you think?
It was Taylor being mean.
Quick, I got a senior dog that I was taking care of.
I'm sorry, man.
So,
I had to.
He knows.
I had to.
He's just being mean.
And I'm pretty sure this is for me.
That was a gimme. Actually, Thomas, I am going to go to you.
Sure.
We did have Jack talking about right-handed shot defenseman. Thank you, Jack. What should be next for the Anaheim Ducks this winter, summer, off season? Yeah. We're just going to stick. That's a key word right there.
I mean, from what it seems like, I think they're going to have to go through the trade route and find someone to help with the offense. I'm not really too sure which direction exactly. Who do they necessarily grab? But they're gonna have to probably trade for somebody to make an impact offensively, unless you're gonna be really hopeful and just wishful thinking that okay, this is the year our young studs are gonna take it to the next level, rather than having just somebody that's like a proven scorer that can do that for them.
There it is. Zach, same question.
Yeah, it's got to be a goal scorer. Like, when it comes to like fixing the defensive end, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing that needs to be done. Like, as much as Gudas could be a hole, like you're not moving him. He got named the captain last year. Quenneville already talked about how he loves the guy when we talked to him when he got hired, and Gudas is going to be on the team. Trouba is going to be on the team. Maybe there was an idea out there that they could bring back Brian Dumoulin and put him, in what the Drew Hellison role became. But I don't think that's going to happen. Or obviously Dumoulin's in LA, so that's not happening. It needs to be goal scoring. The goaltending is what it is. The defense has a clear future in front of it. And it just needs to be a goal scorer. And that's because not only is that what I see and what most people see is what the team needs, it's what Pat Verbeek has said that the team needs. It's what he planted his flag in his whole offseason was, we need more scoring. And so now you're at a point where you still have to get your contract done with Mason McTavish. You need to get you traded away Trevor Zegras, and you picked up a middle six center who's good, but he's not a point producer. He produces points, but that's not his main job. They need a goal scorer, plain and simple. And the free agent market was always going to be tough because really it was Marner, and then Marner got taken off the market. It's Ehlers, and Ehlers doesn't seem like he's going to end up coming to Anaheim, even though the Ducks would probably end up overpaying anyway. And, at this point they should, because they just have so much money to play with that why not? I don't know who the answer is, because there's no obvious trade target anymore. But it's got to be goal scoring, number one.
And I'm gonna try and keep my mic on and off. My dog and my cat are having the time of their life off camera right now, and I love it. I love when they do this. But I agree. Jack, any thoughts secondary to Thomas and Zach at all when it comes to this point?
Yeah, it's just, like Zach said, this is the whole point that Pat Verbeek has been making over the last couple months since the season ended. They need to add high-end scoring talent. They're going to be ultra aggressive in the free agent market and this offseason and adding high-end scoring talent. And they didn't. They trade Trevor Zegras. They bring in trade Trevor Zegras for a bottom six center who's good defensively, which they do need a bottom six center that's good defensively, but not at the cost of Trevor Zegras. They bring in Mikael Granlund, who he's a great passer, not a goal scorer. He's going to get points by assists. If you look back through his career, he's a great player when he's surrounded with other guys. Not necessarily surrounded by other guys, but he's not the play driver to his line. He's the complementary piece that kind of puts everything together. They need play drivers. When we talked to Pat Verbeek yesterday in his media availability, we asked him, with the thin free agent market this year, and plus, we were also talking about the tax situation in terms of being in a high tax state. Does that make him look into the trade market more than he normally would? And his response was, the next couple of days I'll talk to general managers and see what teams are looking to do, but I'm not sure at this point if there's anything we can do unless I get surprised. So you would think, the trade market at this point is the only thing you got left, because Nikolai Ehlers isn't coming in town, it looks like. And to hear the GM say, I don't know if there's anything we can do at this point, it's not looking great, to say the least.
I agree. And the thing is, Zach, you mentioned it, you're not going to find it in free agency. Nikolai Ehlers is fine. It's not that he's a bad goal scorer, bad player, or anything like that, but if you're trying to find elite goal scoring, you got to go trade it for it. You got to go find a way to find it on a different market. So, guys, we've been running for about an hour. Anything that we missed, Angels or Ducks, that you guys can think of? And open floor at this point.
Ducks hired their assistant coaches. Jay Woodcroft, going to run the power play. They interviewed during the head coaching process. I like that for the power play. Ryan McGill, going to run the penalty kill. Made a top 2 unit in New Jersey last year, a top 4 unit there, I think 3 years ago. I like that. I think the assistant coaches are home run picks. So that'll, again, all these little things that they're building up the structure around everything. It's going to be better. I don't think there's any doubt that the team will be a modicum of better, but if they want to really be better and they really want to achieve their goals, they're missing one thing. And we hit it, but
I think there's a really famous Bruce Springsteen song that a lot of people have covered. It's one step up, 2 steps back. I think the Ducks are doing the opposite. I think they're 2 steps up, 1 step back. 2 steps up, 1 step, and that's progress. It's still progress, right? But I just want to see, if you're talking about the Anaheim Ducks, they need goal scoring. But like you said, Jay Woodcroft, great hire. Mikael Granlund, great signing, right? Or good signing, fair signing. You just got to keep plateauing. You got to keep moving that needle. Roger McQueen was a big get. There's a massive get. But it's, as you mentioned, Trevor Zegras, 1 step back. John Gibson trade, 1 step back, right? You had to do it, but 1 step back. So stop taking that step back. Keep going forward. Jack Thomas, anything Angels, Ducks we completely spaced on?
Two things about the Ducks. One thing, not that it's a big deal. I just think it's funny how Pat Verbeek said he's going to be ultra aggressive this offseason and, be very aggressive in free agency. And after the trades he's made, he is, and including the signing of Mikael Granlund, the Ducks are still $4 million under the cap floor. Uh, but it's just funny. I mean, they're going to get over the cap floor easily with Dostal and McTavish signing their RFA deals this summer, assuming that gets done. But the other note I wanted to hit on, shout out to Will Francis. He is a
Thank
Ducks
you.
prospect, defenseman
Yes, I
prospect.
apologize.
All good. He signed a standard player contract with the San Diego Gulls yesterday. You might think big whoop, just an AHL contract, but over the last 5 years, he has had 3 bouts with cancer. Let me say the correct term because I don't want to mispronounce it. With acute lymphoblastic leukemia. So he got diagnosed with it back in 2020. Went through radiation, it relapsed, went through a bone marrow transplant, relapsed again, but he has been clean now and he's healthy. He's back skating, doing everything the way he wants, or the way he used to. So he's just trying to get back on the ice and try and stay healthy. He signed like I said, the contract with the Gulls. He'll be playing the AHL this year. So stick taps to him for going through quite the battle these last 5 years.
Absolutely, and I apologize for not highlighting that. That is on thesportingtribune.com. Jack James wrote a great article, and Will Francis. This was something we were talking about last year. There's a story that we were trying to get a hold of Will. Incredible, absolutely incredible. So thank you, Jack, for highlighting that. Thomas, what did we miss, man?
We did miss one thing, but there's so many things happen with the Ducks, and I think just it's been almost a week now since it's happened. But last episode, it was right after it came out. Ron Washington is out for the rest of the season on medical leave for the Angels.
It is true. It is true, and we can talk about that.
But
no, we can talk. Yeah, we've got time. I think half of us expected it, half of us didn't. Probably just based on the comments that Perry had made that we didn't know if this was going to be long term or not. But I think we were all ready for the anticipation of this, right? And just to make sure that it's clean air, clear the air. None of us know what is going on with Ron, and the Angels have not made an announcement, and that is a personal thing between Ron. That's something that Ron has the right to tell people that we don't have to worry about. But I think most importantly, we've all met Ron, we've all talked to Ron. We all like Ron, so just well wishes to Ron. It doesn't matter if we liked him or not. It's still well wishes to Ron Washington. And Jack, Thomas, I know I cut you off. Thomas, why don't you start? Anything that you want to add to it?
No, I just pretty much wanted to bounce off what you were just saying. Just, well wishes. Ron Washington's like one of the coolest dudes I've met in sports. One of my probably all-time favorite like coach, manager, position person to interview just because he's such a funny dude, awesome quotes, just genuinely really good dude that just really cares about, for example, his players, just ultimate like mentor in the sport and one of the best people that I've met.
Just to give you an idea of Ron, this would have been somewhere in the mid 2010s is Baseball America called me, asked me to do a thing on Mike Trout because they were naming him Player of the Year, Baseball America's Player of the Year or whatever. And I remember who was in town. It was Oakland or Texas at the end of the year kind of thing. And I went up to Ron and just asked for a quote. And he said, yeah, sure. And he said, what is this about? And I said, well, what did you think of Mike Trout this season? He says, I don't give a flying. That's just Ron. That's the way that Ron is. Gotta love him. Jack, anything more to add about Ron and what? Sadly, this contract year. I'd love to see him back behind, back in the dugout again at some point, but hopefully again in the future.
Yeah, I mean, like Thomas said, just great guy. As a media member, he's awesome to work with, just because you kind of never know what he's going to say. He's funny, he's hilarious. He calls it how it is. He's not going to BS you. If you say something stupid, he'll let you know about it. He just preaches accountability, both to his players and to media and to whoever, to anybody that'll listen. He'll preach accountability and stuff like that. So hopefully he's all right and makes a recovery. We get to see him back soon. Baseball's his life. He lives and breathes baseball. So the fact that it's serious enough to where he's not going to be back behind the bench for the rest of the season, it's obviously tough because you know how much baseball means to him. So yeah, just well wishes to Ron and his family.
Zach, anything to close it out?
Yeah, I mean, just echoing what everybody said. It's tough to hear, and obviously, you want what's best for him. And as we've talked about too, he's 73. He's up there, and anything if they feel it's scary enough that he can't do what needs to be done, then you got to do what's best for you. And it's from like an on-field standpoint, it may give the Angels something to rally behind if they want to truly make a push here in the second half. But I never actually got to speak to Ron because the one day I went to go cover the Angels was the day this first came out. So kind of tough there. But like we said, it sounded like they all thought it was going to be something short term that day. But if the tests say what they say, then you got to listen to the doctors say number one, and we hope nothing but the best for him. And he's obviously been a baseball lifer that deserves some sort of peace, in the game.
To add to the Ron Washington lore, and Ron is still very much alive. This is not like an ode to an obituary or an ode to Ron. We just care about him. He's such a great guy. Merle Haggard, one of the most well-known country artists of all time, one of the most successful, wrote a song about Ron Washington. I don't know if you guys know about this. He had a song called "That's the Way Love Goes." He wrote "That's the Way Baseball Go," and it's a song dedicated to Ron Washington. It's a Merle Haggard song. It's hard to find. If you can find it, it's great. But this is people love him. Absolutely everyone loves him. So Ron, the best wishes, man. We really do love you. We care about you. So I think that closes it out, guys. I'm gonna throw you for a loop on our usual item. We'll just start with our usual end of note, unassuming of who goes 1-1, who the Angels take at number 2, whether you want him or who you think it is. Jack Janes.
Just to say a name I haven't said yet, Seth Hernandez.
Attaboy. Thomas Murray.
Who I think it is, Liam Doyle.
And Zach Kavanaugh.
Yeah, I talked up the Kate Anderson case last week, but I think Liam Doyle sounds probably pretty right.
Fair enough. I'm going to go off the rails here, guys. Eli Willits. I'm going to go with it. That's just me going off the rails. If you are a Major League Baseball draft fan, I do want to make a recommendation. Lance Brozdowski, of player development analyst for Watch Marquee, had a outstanding video breaking down the top arms in this class. So just an attaboy to Lance. He's going to be on the MLB Network broadcast, but just it was one of those things that's so good you have to tell people about it kind of thing. So, okay, throwing you guys for a loop. Unassuming of who goes ahead in the picks, who do the Ducks take next year in the draft? Open floor.
The only name I know for next year's draft is Gavin McKenna, and I doubt the Ducks are winning the lottery. So, Gavin McKenna?
I'm going Gavin McKenna.
Maybe this is the one year the Ducks win the draft lottery.
And they get a quote unquote generational talent in Gavin McKenna
to make up for missing for Crosby and Bedard.
Yeah. Thomas, Zach, are you on the Gavin McKenna train?
Gavin McKenna. Let's do it.
Sweet.
I'm trying to pull up a list.
I'm worried.
I'm trying to pull up a list.
Yeah, that's what I had to look
let's
it up
go. We're gonna go because I don't think that if things go right, the Ducks don't enter the lottery, which would be nice. So let's go.
He's just picking whoever scored the most goals at Boston University last year.
No, I have a prospect ranking here, and I'm trying to find the one that I think is the funniest to say. I'll go back up. Vigo Bjork from Desjardins.
There we go. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Viggo BJ O with an
guys. Thomas, what do you got going on,
RCK. Vigo.
Christian Moore update real quick. Removed from today's game with left thumb irritation. Weekend plans. July 4th weekend. Hang out with family. And then, I don't know. I think I'm going to go to Universal Studios actually tomorrow. I got a pass and girlfriend has the day off, so that'll be fun.
All right, Jack James.
Every year for 4th of July, we go down to my grandma's beach house in Dana Point and hang out. Although it's not really technically a beach house, it just overlooks the water off in the distance. It's a couple miles inland, but still a beautiful place to be in Dana Point. Hang out there, have a lot of burgers and hot dogs, a few beers maybe. Get back home and yeah.
I feel like every time we ask Jack James what he's doing for the weekend, it's like, oh, I'm going to Mill Avenue. I'm going to a wedding. I'm going to Vegas. Like,
Jack lives the most exciting life.
He does. Zach, what do you got going on, man?
4th of July is a friend of ours' birthday, so we always go over to his parents' house, and they make a great spread that will be delicious. And I, too, might indulge in a couple cold ones. And at some point, I might sneak off to go see Jurassic World. Sorry.
My man.
Man. I love it. I saw for the sports conversation, saw F1, the movie, on Saturday. Phenomenal. Just a great time at the movies. Go see it in IMAX. Feel like you're driving a race car. Excitement.
I was supposed to go see it last night and just didn't. So, but
it's worth your dollar.
All right, guys. Well, I take your word on it. I trust you. So, all right, kids. Well, let's call it. I see dinner. Dinner's walking in, so I'm gonna take off. You guys can follow Thomas Murray, Tommy Lee Murray, on socials at Thomas_L_Murray. You can follow Jack Janes at JackJanes_. You can follow Zach Kavanaugh at ZachCav, ZachCav. You can follow myself at Taylorblakeward, and you can find all of our work at thesportingtribune.com. I don't have a piece of paper, so just pretend, and we'll see you next time. Enjoy, be safe, etc. Sweet up.